I'm a strong believer in, like, we make our own luck, and you know, we can turn things around for ourselves at any moment. So I think if something bad is happening, I can choose how I feel about that thing. I can choose to think, oh, nothing ever goes right for me, this hasn't worked out just like the last thing, you know, I'm cursed, you know, it's always negative, I'm supposed to be a failure. I have the choice of how I determine, you know, that thing, or how I look at that thing. I can also then say, oh, this is another test, this is going to make me stronger, this is preparing me for something, this is good, you know, I can grow from this, this is going to strengthen me, you know. I can choose how I look at it. I think the choice is always ours, how we view a thing. And then obviously based on how we look at that thing and how we choose to view it, that will affect how we act, and then that will obviously affect the outcome. So it can go either way. For me, I was exposed to that way of thinking from a teenager, so fortunately I had the right input around me to change my thinking or affect my thinking, and to lean on a more positive side when negative things happen to me, or things that could be considered negative happen, or when I, you know, experience something that, you know, isn't the most favorable of things to happen. I had a process in place due to the things I had around me, and the right voices around me, and the right influences around me, that made me think in the way that would you know, produce a positive outcome, or a positive thought, or a positive action, rather than a negative one. A negative thought, oh, why is this happening to me? Oh, it's the end of the world, you know, as opposed to, you know, what it should be, which is, you know, this is something that's going to strengthen me. There's something I can learn from this, I can grow from this. What does this mean? This is another opportunity to go again and do it even better. When I was 17, just going on to 18, I was exposed to NLP, which stands for neuro-linguistic programming. I was doing someone's hair at his house. I was barbering at that time, and I was doing someone's hair at their house, and he had some cassette tapes. You remember cassette tapes? And he was listening to, he was playing, in fact, on his little stereo, and someone called Anthony Robbins. And I was drawn in by the information that was coming out of the speakers. It resonated with me, and we spoke about it a while, and then I asked him if I could borrow a couple of the tapes, which he did. And I just listened to that stuff religiously. I just liked what was coming out of it. I loved the positivity. I loved the whole stuff about, you know, how we can manage our mind and manage our thoughts, and, you know, affect the outcomes that we get, and the results we produce. And I just, as a teenager, you know, you're impressionable. You know, I was influenced by it, and it shaped my outlook on negativity and positivity, and, you know, how we process information, and you know, all of that, and, you know, what we think is negative and what we think is positive, and can we affect that? Are we at the mercy of it, or can we control it and affect change, and all of that? And I grew up from there with that mindset, and it's only just got stronger the more I've stayed around that type of information. And what happened with listening to people like Anthony Robbins, I got to listen, you know, learn about more people who spoke in the same way, and, you know, taught the same stuff, you know. So, and then I started reading them books, and I learned about other people, and other cassette tapes and books, and reading that information, and it just got more and more and more, and strengthened that thing that was strengthened as a teenager. It just got more and more and more, and I just got you know, immersed in it, and I immersed myself in it, because it was just a new thing, and it made sense, you know. And it began to affect my writing, and in the things, some of the things I was saying in my poetry, and some of the stuff I was performing. You know, it began seeping into my material. Like, you know, the way I wrote was affected by it, because obviously when the mind is affected, what you're producing creatively is affected. So it just became more and more a part of me, you know. And when I would speak, people would want to hear that stuff more and more, because it resonated with them. And then it just became a thing, and I've been that way ever since. So when a negative happens, automatically my mind goes to a positive more than a negative. What's the solution over what is the problem? Rather than, oh my God, look what's happened, this is the end of the world. Or, what does this mean? What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? You see the difference? And that's what the exposure to NLP at an early age did for me.